Here we are live again, getting ready to get started with a new reveal. This one is coin roll hunt number 450. Reveal number 450. This will be a 1944 S roll. Looks nice from the outside of the tube. We'll just have to get it open and check it out. See what's inside. There are a number of nice double dies and RPMs to be found. 1944 S. Hello, Carl. This will be the last of the reveals for this past week. I'll be doing a new show this evening. Monday, the 29th of August. I'll be doing a new show for reveals. Get yourself registered now if you're not already registered with the channel so that you can participate in the reveal show this evening. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started with this roll. I was waiting for a couple more people to kind of show us. Telling everybody that I'd be ready at 4 o'clock, and I'm just a couple of minutes early. Let's go ahead and wait for just a minute or two to see if anybody else wants to show up before I start on this. Good afternoon, Coin Junkie. I got my phone charged back up. As you can see, my camera's working again. Yeah. Well, I tell you what, when it comes to technology and figuring things out with technology, usually I'm just right behind the 8-ball. I thought I had everything all set up just right, and I bought myself one of those USB hubs that's also it's a USB charger hub. And so I've got 4 ports where I can charge USB devices. So I get it mounted to my shelf. I actually mounted it up, plugged it in, and thought I turned it on. I plugged my phone into it while I was doing the show, and the phone went dead. Oh, great. So after a little bit of toying around with it, I found out that when I turned it on, I had actually turned it off. So I turned the power switch off to charge the phone. That didn't work, obviously. So I turned it on. I charged the phone. The phone's up to like 70% now, so it should be good because it is on a live charger now. And it's just using a phone as a camera. So here you are, getting close enough. I am going to start off with coin number 1. Coin number 1 is going to go to Crispy. So Crispy will get this coin. Coin number 1. Let's see what we have here. Well, it is a 1944 S. It does have a little bit of weakness around the mint mark area. And let's see if we have anything on the reverse. 1944 is one of those years where we definitely want to be looking at the reverse as well, because there is some chance that we could come up with something nice here. But on this coin, all we see is a couple of Larrys. So that's coin number 1 for Crispy. Now coin number 2. Coin number 2 will go to Sissy. And Sissy's coin number 2 looks just like this. Yeah, let's see here. Not seeing anything on this one, except a spot on his cheek. Got nothing there. Let's check the reverse on this one and see what we have there. If you're going to see double dies on the reverse on these wheat cents, it's usually going to be any pluribus unum. It's usually going to show up in that top section of the reverse. But in this particular case, got nothing at all. So coin number 3 now. Coin number 3 for DN. And coin number 3. Well, it has a relatively close punched mint mark. Does not appear to have any hub doubling on the obverse of the coin. So let's flip it over and take a look at the reverse real quick. Okay, we have just a little bit of machine doubling here on the reverse around unum. You can see it doubled just a little bit to the right. That is machine doubling. This is an interesting coin to talk about the issue of the die scraping against, or the feeder finger scraping against the die. That's what it appears happened here, and you get these raised areas on the coin because it's actually scraping into the die. So it's taking away from the field of the die, which will actually raise it on the resulting coins. And you can see through the N right here that actually the N is actually taller here than it is over here. And the reason for that is because the field has actually been raised to compensate for some of the height of the lettering that should be there. This is somewhat common on a number of the different issues from about 1935 up to about 1945. And so this is something that happens with some frequency in the mid-years of the wheats. So that's number 3 for Deanne. Here's number 4, Mr. Worley. Mr. Worley comes up on number 4 here. Let's see what it is. I see a double die on the 9. See if it shows in Liberty. Only a little tiny bit. It's minor, but it's there. Yeah, little double die obverse, which you can see in the tail of the 9 there. A little extra thickness. Not sure whether or not that's a listable one. It looks like it's actually very minor. It's kind of hard to tell without being able to compare it against known listings. I don't see any hub doubling on the reverse. So I'll put this one off to the side for Mr. Worley. Let Eric take a look at it and see what he sees. I didn't change the title on this. Did I have the title? Is this the proper? Yeah, this is the right show. I want to make sure I was in the right place. Let's see, 450. This is a 44S roll. Get that part changed so that it's correct. Okay. Let's see. Next coin out looks like it's for Carl. Carl gets coin number 5 here. Let's see what coin number 5 has on it. Now sometimes on these slightly earlier die state coins you'll see what looks like doubling on the bottom of the 4 here. And it looks like it might look like doubling right in here on this 4. And sometimes it's a little more prominent than this. But this is master die doubling. 1944 very commonly shows that kind of doubling on the date. That is a master die doubling. Looks like I have nothing else on the obverse here. Let's flip it over and take a look at the reverse and see what we have. Nothing there. How about number 6? Coin number 6 goes to Eric. And coin number 6 appears to be normal. Okay, let's take a look at the reverse. All right, nothing there either. This is for Eric. Now coin number 7. Coin number 7 will be for Penny Hoarder. And Penny Hoarder gets... Dun chicka boom boom. That is normal. That is normal. And all of that is normal. Let's flip it over and see what the reverse side looks like. Very late die state. And also relatively normal. So that's for Penny Hoarder. Now number 8. Yo Man. Yo Man Go. What do we have here? Well, looks normal throughout the obverse. Be doing a lot of prep work a little bit later on the afternoon toward getting the list ready for the auction tomorrow. I have probably, I'm going to say, an hour and a half of prep work to do to be ready for the auction tomorrow. Please be sure that you check for the list this evening. It will be up online prior to the reveal show this afternoon. I'll announce it again during the reveal show that the list is going to be up and ready to go by then. It is not up right now, but when it is, it will be at its normal location as every week. It is at coppercoins.com/auction. There's coin number 10. This one goes to Malcolm. And I see that Malcolm happens to be watching. So we'll see if we can find anything good for Malcolm. There's a lamination flake right here, starting here and going all the way up here. Got the outer layer of this planchet separating, or trying to separate. Kind of goes out into the field in front of the mouth and sort of ends there. Yeah, got a spot on the reverse. Don't like those things. Spots are not good. Point number 11 now for Eric. Back to Eric. See what Eric can get. And this one might be one of the minor double die obverse coins. Might be. Show a little bit extra thickness in the tail of the 9 on the date. It doesn't necessarily mean anything, but it could. Just have to take a better look at it, compare it against known listings, see what we can see. All right, that's coin number 11 now for Eric. And here we go with coin number 12. Jim Fletcher now. Coin number 12, Jim Fletcher. A bunch of little die gouges on this one. They would only amount to being markers for something else, and, well, there isn't something else for them to mark. Okay. So we move on to coin number 13. Coin number 13 will be for Adam Chambers. And Adam's coin also nobody home. Let's see the reverse. Little struck through on the reverse. So we have an area where the coin shows a pit from having something obstructing the die during the strike, and then it doesn't have any sort of a push up around the edges where like a crater would. So that means the die was in contact with the coin when that dent was made, which means that it was struck through something. Malcolm. Back to Malcolm again. Man, there's some lesser than great condition coins in this. And no doubling on that one. How about number 15, Crispy? Got nothing on this one. Yeah. Got a bunch of late dice date coins. This must have been kind of late in the run for a particular bunch of dies. This one for Joe McBride. Oh, there's a different mint mark for you. That's the Ball Serif mint mark. That's the one that's scarce in 1946. I think they're rather common in 44, though. There were at least two different S mint mark styles used every year from 1943 through 1948. And then 1941 was another year that had two different S mint marks. 1942, however, only saw the use of one mint mark punch style. So I guess the only exceptions in the 1940s to having more than one mint mark style would be 1940, 1942, and 1949. Every other year has more than one different mint mark style. Was Joe's the possible DDO? Let me check here. No. No. Wrong mint mark style. And I don't see any signs of classics doubling there. Nice that you look anyhow. Here's one for Carl. What do you know? Answer Carl's question, get a coin for him. Okay. Nothing going on the obverse on this one. check the reverse here real quick. And nada. Nothing at all. How about number 19 now? Number 19 for Deanne. A lot of people testing positive for COVID these days. I tell you now, with the treatment, the drug treatment, plus any hospitalization treatment that they have for it, is far less scary than the initial run through the pandemic, where they didn't really even know what it was. They've done a lot to develop a vaccine plus post-care drugs to assist in lessening the symptoms of COVID. There is nothing that can be used as a preventative for COVID except taking vitamin D3, vitamin C, and zinc. Those substances taken concurrently could possibly lead a number of people to never catch COVID to begin with. I don't think anybody yet really knows enough about it to really, I guess you might say, be certain of what it is, how people catch it, how it's spread. They're doing really well at coming up with knowledge about it. And trust me, I understand that there is a certain branch of science that drives politics, or that politics drives the science. But I also understand that there is true science. And true science dictates pretty much what I'm telling you. Those antigens against COVID can not only leave at a very unpredicted time, but they can also not be effective against different strains of COVID. So if your antigens are a fight against perhaps the Delta variant, it has been noted that some of the Omicron subvariants and more current variants can skip right over immunity from the Delta variant. So I wouldn't get too comfortable in knowing that you have antigens against COVID in your body against the new COVID strains, because that's exactly what a virus does. It mutates so that it can jump around any antigen that has been built up against earlier versions of itself. Buonasera, Benti. Of course, I don't claim to be in any way an expert in COVID or any disease, but I listen to the science of the matter. And I also listen to what my wife is told, how she's told it, and by whom she's told, because she works in the healthcare field where people who work for her are dealing with patients on a very daily basis, which means they have to keep up with the latest knowledge. And I'm telling you basically what she tells me. Take your vitamin D, take your zinc, and take your vitamin C, and your chances of catching COVID will be at least somewhat mitigated. If you are vaccinated, remember that from the very day the vaccination first came out in, what was it, November of 2020? Something that has not changed from that very day back in 2020 is that no one promises that you will not get COVID with a vaccination. What the promise regarding the vaccination was is that should you catch COVID, it will be shorter lived and your symptoms will likely be milder having had the vaccination. There is no preventative to catching COVID. Hamza. Is that the Arabic name for 5? Is that right? Alright, we're halfway through the roll now. Still haven't found anything. I'm ready to change that luck. Let's see if Mark will bring it to us. Mark. It appears that perhaps... No. Well, the thing about masks, especially in medical environments, Dennis, is that generally people who are ill or immunocompromised in the hospital are much more susceptible to catching COVID with symptoms that are deadly. So, in an abundance of caution, they are very protective of the patients in hospitals, especially emergency rooms and ICU care units. By wearing masks, they are lessening the possibility of spreading any COVID they might be carrying to the patients. So the one thing that you need to understand, here's a little struck through right here. It's a nice little struck through fiber or wire. That's really kind of cool. What you have to realize and understand when it comes to, here's a place where the feeder finger scraped against the die and actually damaged the die to the point where it was basically chopping the edge off the die. Then you can see the mark down here that it causes. And these areas are shiny as shiny can be. You can see the reflection of my finger on there. And the reason for that is because, well, they're basically polished by another piece of metal scraping up against them. I was vaccinated for COVID back in the early days. I was vaccinated in March of 21. Having been vaccinated when I was probably kept me from having a worse case of COVID than I did. Recognizing and understanding that having a vaccination has nothing to do with preventing you from catching COVID. The preventions from catching COVID are very religious hand washing. So you have to wash your hands anytime you're in a non-sterile environment, which is almost all the time. Oh, there's a double die. It looks like one anyway. Hang on. No, maybe not. Sure looks one. Looks like it right in that area, but it's not on either of the wheat stalks. I'll skip that one over. And the other best preventative against catching COVID is for other people to be wearing masks so that you don't catch it. That's where a lot of people go totally wrong. They go completely off the rails when it comes to mask wearing. They believe that somehow mask wearing is protecting them from catching COVID. That is not the truth. This one's a double die, minor double die obverse. Could match up with that coin that was number 4, way back toward the beginning of the roll. But wearing a mask doesn't do anything to protect you against catching COVID, especially if you're removing the mask and putting it back on, or removing it and putting it back on. Folks, masks are disposable for a reason. Once a mask has been contaminated, it is contaminated. You can't uncontaminate it by taking it off and putting it back on. But the whole thing about masks was so that when you sneeze, or when you talk, or when you cough, your aerosolized mucus does not end up in the air for other people to breathe in and catch the disease. It has nothing to do with the size of the virus and the fact that it can slip right through cloth because it's so small. That's ridiculous. It has nothing to do with that. It's about droplets of spittle coming out of your mouth when you yawn, when you sneeze, when you cough, and getting those droplets onto other people where they catch the virus from that droplet. The aerosolized droplets. I've laughed myself silly watching people on Facebook showing the size of a virus and the size of a hole in a cloth mask, and that masks don't do any good. Of course they don't do any good if they're not worn. But masks will prevent the spread of your viruses and germs to other people if you're wearing one. It's pouring down rain, huh? Yeah, we still don't have any today. We've got a light overcast outside, so it may actually rain later on. I think we have a forecast for possible storms this evening, but it's a pretty low chance. This roll is not turning out to produce much of anything. So we're kind of roaming through it, and I'm chit-chatting about coronavirus because there's so many misconceptions out there that still live today. There's grave misconceptions about why people are wearing masks or why the virus is more or less dangerous to certain people. There's just a lot of misinformation. And the misinformation is a lot of it is right on the heels of people being so politically separate from someone else that when they hear somebody say something, they construe it to be what they wanted to hear, and then they immediately lash out and fight against it. Thanks, Eric. I'm going to appreciate it. And I'll tell everybody here, live in the show again, we are going to be having a reveal show at 7 p.m. today, where we will be selling spots in 8 new rolls for this week. Eric will also probably be doing some reveals next week, perhaps even by the end of this week. We'll just have to see how that hammers out for him. We're going to have to try to get him set up with the proper supplies and everything to do the reveals. For right now, it's going to be kind of winging it until we get it right for sure. I thought that was a talk-to-text thing. Eric, I didn't realize you meant to say that. I meant to say that. I meant for it to be that way. Here's one for Parvis. And Parvis is likely watching us today. Waiting to learn more juicy morsels of coin information. I don't have a whole lot in this show. This particular show is kind of just sort of what it is. I got a bunch of later dice date coins from 1944 with a dice scrape issue on the reverse on a lot of them, like this one. And they are not they're not the prettiest coins. They don't have much in the way of die varieties or errors. This dice scraping issue that goes on the reverse is something that's relatively normal to a lot of the cents from the 40s and 50s. This one sounded wrong, so I want to see if it's got any design missing. If it has design missing, I'll weigh it. It doesn't look like we do. Nope. I've been pretty lucky finding underweight coins in the last 6 months or so. The first clue that you have an underweight coin is that it sounds weird. It sounds more like a silver dime than a penny. And the second clue is when you have missing design elements. When you have missing design elements, either you have a rolled thin stock coin or you have a tapered planchet, depending on whether or not there is a taper in the coin, thinner on one side than the other. If the coin's thin all the way around at a pretty much even thinness, then we're talking about rolled thin stock. Or you could have a cent that was minted on metal intended for dime stock, but that would be 65 or thereafter. We're talking about the core of a dime is copper. And before the layers are clad onto the dime stock, it's just copper. And so to that effect, you could actually strike a 1965 cent on stock that was intended for a 1965 dime that did not receive the clad layers. In that case, you would have a cent that looks normal, except that it would be very thin, would be underweight, and would not be completely struck up, because if you think about die presses and you think about the way they press the coins, I mean, they put tons of force into the coins. Well, they don't just, strike until the thickness of the coin stops them, because in that case, coins would turn out thin as paper and large as saucers. So there has to be a stopping point. There has to be and basically how that stopping point works is the die movement up and down works on a cam. Yeah, there we go. Doubled eyelid, 1944S. Doubled eyelid, double die there. That one's going to Parvis. Back on my story. So the die movement up and down works on a cam system, kind of like lifting the rods on your car works on a cam system. And the die is only allowed to sink down so far, and that has a stop. And that is the case with coining dies. Now you have to imagine these things are going around almost as fast as a car engine runs. So there's not a whole lot of give. Chip banter. Are we talking about die chips? Are we talking about the people in some of the Facebook groups claiming how die chips are really valuable and worth money and blah blah? I think I may be seeing a very, very small rim clip right there. I'll flip it over and see if it shows on the other side. If it shows weakness in the same area on the other side, which would be right in here, and I'm going to go with a no. There is some chance you could have a rim clip. Not one of the more common things that you would find, but it's not very uncommon either. Oh, the chip when they vaccine. Oh, that chip. Okay, I get it. I haven't heard much about that lately. They're talking. It's talking about people not getting the vaccination because they were in fear that the government was planting some sort of a tracking device as a microchip inside of you when they give you the vaccination. You got all kinds of stupid stuff comes out about that, but I haven't heard much of it lately, and I think the main reason for it is that those are the same people who back in 2020 were saying that the virus itself was fake. Rest assured, boys and girls, it is not fake. I have seen it a number of times. My mother has lingering symptoms from COVID that she had back in June. I have lingering symptoms from the COVID I had back in December. I still can't smell stuff properly. But yeah, see, Joe, you and I know that kind of stuff, but man, there's some people that just believe anything they hear. And there's people who still today will become foaming at the mouth, mad, if you disagree with them that the government's trying to track you and they want to put a chip inside of you. So they make up a virus and make up a vaccination and want to vaccinate everyone. There's so many problems with that. That was Mr. Worley's coin. Let's go to number 42. This is going to go to Malcolm. Hopefully you're feeling better soon, Malcolm. This particular strain of the virus doesn't seem to be quite as strong or prevalent as other strains have been, especially if you do not share comorbidities such as obesity, diabetes, certain other conditions, and overall weakness in your immune system, such as HIV or any of those immunodeficient diseases. I'm thinking that too, Sissy. It seems like a lot of people are catching it. There's a lot of people catching it, but it's not much worse than a cold. It's almost like catching the regular flu at this point. You don't hear a whole lot at all about, people being admitted to the hospital because of it, things like that. I will tell you that back in May when I was in the hospital, I was in a room that had been a COVID unit. Kind of spooky looking at the vent machine that they had over on the side and the big piping going through the was the air duct going through the room into the ceiling so that they could constantly have negative pressure in the room so the virus wouldn't leave the room when the door opened. Had that in the room that I stayed in the hospital overnight for 2 nights, and also had it in the ER, as I can remember seeing a room in the ER that had it. There's one from Mr. Birchman. Yeah, coin number 45. Coin number 45 here. I know that other people have been coming and going and coming in and enjoying parts of this show, so I want to let them know. I've already said this a couple of times during this show, but I want to let everyone know that there will be a reveal show this evening, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. We're going to be doing 8 new rolls this week. 8 new rolls this week. I'll be doing them kind of rat-a-tat-a-tat. I'll probably be doing 3 tomorrow and 4 or 5 on Wednesday. I'll also be running a rather large auction tomorrow. There'll be a lot of rolls come up tomorrow. It's going to be a good size auction. Got mystery boxes, both of singles and rolls. We'll have some sheets full of older coins. We will have rolls, both tougher date, OBW, tubed, paper wrapped, all of that together. Oh, wait a minute. Eric says, I just tried Cheetos flavored chips. I don't really get it. Cheetos flavoring on potato chips? Is that what we're talking about? I think because, well, Cheetos aren't really chips anyway, are they? They're just kind of crunchy, doughy things. So you found potato chips flavored as if they were Cheetos? Isn't that kind of strange? Chips flavored like chips. So it's cheddar cheese on potato chips. I like building those mystery roll boxes because you never know what's going to pop out and go in those. This is coin number 48. We have 3 rolls or 3 coins left in the roll. I knew I was going to say that before I said it, and it just came out wrong. This one has a bit of a Larry on it, but this is coin number 48 out of 50. It looks like this roll is just going to turn out to be not such a wonderful roll. We did come up with 1 coin. That was a really nice one. Nice new doubled eyelid. There may be other examples of that die in the roll that I missed because I'm not really used to looking for doubled eyelids on 1944S. Here's one for Otis. Let's see what Otis gets. Well, Sandigger got a box that is going to incorporate a bunch more rolls than what he thought he was going to get when he bought the box. That could happen again. That could happen at any time. Santa Claus has deep roots in copper coins. There's one for Carl. Carl is the last person to get a coin out of this roll. This is the last coin in this roll. And then I will be breaking off for now, and we'll come back to see all of you at the reveal show, 7 p.m. Eastern Time today. 7 p.m. Eastern. That's 4 p.m. Pacific. I got 8 new rolls. All but one of them are wheat cent rolls. And better dates, too. So for now, I'm going to sign off and bid you farewell. We found 2 coins in this roll that were possible die varieties, and I may possibly have missed a few. So we'll let Eric take care of this roll when it gets to him. Wow, I managed to do that without dropping them. Yeah, I know that sounds bad, but it's true. All right. There it is. The roll all stacked up and ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and take off now. I will be back. The purpose for reveals. Well, Ronald, there are a number of valuable die varieties and valuable errors and other things that come on coins of all years. And I go through rolls that are less likely to be purchased by the customers. More valuable rolls, like for instance this 1944S roll that I just went through for everybody, was a more than $70 roll. Most people can't justify being able to purchase an entire roll like that, so I give everyone the opportunity of buying just a coin or 2 or 3 out of a roll that has not been opened and has every chance of containing the same things as people who buy the rolls to go through them. But I go through the roll, and with my eye, my education, and my knowledge of what's going on with these coins, I can pick out the different die varieties and possibly different errors that could be on these coins so that we can discuss them and you can learn from that while we're going through the show, but also so that people can own these die varieties and errors that are attributed by copper coins, that have copper coins numbers attached to them, so that you know for sure that you got a nice die variety directly from the source. And so that's the overall purpose of reveals. We'll discuss it more at the reveal show coming up at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, 6 Central. And I'll get everybody into knowledge as to exactly what we do, how we do it, and what's going to occur when we do the reveals. I'll probably even do a video about it. But I appreciate it, folks. I'll see you guys later on. Have a great afternoon.